Boom! According to that, I am live. Welcome. This is Tokyo Tonight. My name is Hiko Simon. I'm just trying a new technical setup, because life is too simple otherwise. Just as of, for some reason, with the last Mac update, I've been doing this with a Mac for the last few weeks. Now it actually does work, where without using my camera capture thing, it just automatically detects that my phone is in the vicinity and uses that as a camera, which is quite good. It's quite good quality. Lets you see how tired and old I am, perhaps. But yeah, going along with that. So I was just setting that up, but seems to be working nicely. Hope you're all doing well. It's a beautiful day in Tokyo today. Every year, of course, spring getting earlier. This year, the cherry blossom season has been the schedule, the forecast has moved forward a week. Where before it was forecast to start around the 27th of March, they've moved it forward to the 17th or the 18th. So it should be like full cherry blossoms in about March 24. And yeah, like today it was like 19 degrees. Beautiful day for the Tokyo Marathon. A little bit of FOMO that I didn't win any of the 3 lotteries to get in. It is like even with all of that, it's a 1 chance in 6 from overseas and 1 chance in 10 locally. So it's really hard to get into. But congrats to all the people who ran. I was following some people like ran to Japan. I had some friends who were visiting Japan for it and so on. So it was a lot of fun to watch. I did a running vlog yesterday, although I haven't edited and posted it. So I'll try to do that during the week, but it was ahead of the run. But yeah. Anyway, beautiful weather in Tokyo. I hope it's good wherever you all are in the world. Indeed, a packed comment section already. We'll dive into the topics after we've said hello to everybody, but let's see who's in here. And yeah, let's get in. We've got Kuboros Tenshi. Great to see you. Potluck Sushi is always in early with the comments every week. Good to see you back and welcome. We've got Dan H. People chatting away, but good to see you all. Sadiq, nice to see you, Sadiq, and nice to have you back in the chat. We have a lot of comments from Potluck Sushi. Appreciate the enthusiasm. Yeah, DJ Sunny Side Up. Claim first. Anyway, that's a champion's move there. That is an NBA basketballer move there. Just claim it went in. And so DJ Sunny Side Up officially first in the chat. Yeah, actually really big. I really like DJ Sunny Side Up's mash mix this week. And it was like super close. It wasn't until like a day or two ago that I took over in the votes, but yeah, no, he's really nailing it with the mixes lately. So yes, I was very happy to get another victory in the mash battle, but at the same time, we both made really good tracks, and I really liked his, actually. I thought it was really good. So great job, DJ Sunny Side Up. It's my turn to pick a track this week, and I'll pick something appropriately fun and good to mash. I have some ideas. I tried one earlier, but actually I'm going to change my mind on that because you're right. I think I was going through if I asked that, but I have asked you to mash that before, so we'll do something else. Anyway, we've got, who else we got here? We've got Lara is in here. Nice to see you, Lara, in here every week, along with Sadiq, along with Aaron. Great to have you in here, our moderator in the chat with a hello, boom, indeed, coming in here. We've got making coffee. Be right back. Please go get that coffee. Early morning on a cold Indiana morning, I assume. Coming in from Greece, from Athens, we've got Japan Monomura Black Tengu saying, sad news, just learned that Barry John, the king, died in 2024, won 25 caps for the Wales national team. Are we talking about rugby or soccer there? Fly halves. Okay, I should probably know that in that case. Was considered one of the greatest fly halves to ever play the game. It was always Jonathan Davies when I was a kid, and he was, when I was little, he was considered the best fly half. I mean, yeah, Wales always had great teams. I'm really impressed, actually, that you know all about, that you know about Welsh rugby. I'm curious how that is, actually. But yeah, no, good stuff. Thank you for the call-up. Yes, who else we got in here? We've got Believe in Yourself. Nice to see you. We've got Tadom. Great to have you in here indeed. A packed house indeed. Nice to see everybody. Would never take an ALT. Hey, I used to be an AL. Well, yeah, maybe. Okay, so the comment still stands, I guess. But yeah, never say never, but never apparently is the answer. Quint Rankin, glad that you could make it. It's been an eventful week. There are things to talk about. There's actually, I was going through, I haven't posted a lot during the week because I've been busy with work, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about today. So we will get into that. It's definitely a full comment section, a packed house indeed. Who else we got in here? We got scanning through. I'm seeing Quint Rankin. I'm seeing Lara. I'm seeing... right now I'm just scanning names. I'm not reading. I'm too much of a... You can't be talking about me. Believe in Yourself was watching a few streams of the Tokyo Marathon. It was fun watching the Tokyo Marathon on the TV. Where, because the top runners finish in 2 hours and it took me 3.5 hours, it was like reliving the experience of doing the Tokyo Marathon at 1.5 times accelerated speed, which is how I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So it was actually kind of cool. And I could remember, oh God, especially the final stretch, just how completely crap I felt. It was nice. That said, was there FOMO or envy? There's a little bit, but then I immediately remember how hard the 14 weeks of prep I did was. And normally it would be 16 weeks of prep. And I would do that. I would apply for the lottery and I'd do that again. But I'm also really glad I didn't have to do it this year. But, I do think a lot about, and this is what I'll make my running series about, all the things I've learned. Because I got 3 hours, 31 minutes and 14 seconds, that 1 minute and 14 seconds to take off the marathon, even though, particularly when you get to your late 40s, whatever, every year you do lose a little bit of ability for something like the marathon. At the same time, there's so many things that I've picked up that would pick up more than a minute. So I would love to go and just get that 3.5 hour. But anyway, what else we got? We got Globetrotter 147. Nice. Oh, it's Odie Jr. Great to see you. And yes, indeed. Good morning, Tokyo tonight. Bada bing, bada boom. Great to have you in the chat. Long time no see. We got Ben Duncan in here. Great to see. Wow, we got everybody rocking in. We have people being aggravated. Don't be aggravated. It's a nice place to be here. Who else? You gotta love the internet indeed. Give a like if you're rolling in. There's some good advice there from the moderator. Everybody, you have to do what Aaron says. So there you go. What else have we got in here? We got Shubus. Never fear. Glad that you made it. Good morning, Panama. Hope you're having a delicious coffee with the show. We got a coffee kampai because, yeah, Erin was just getting hers ready where she is. So we are all set. Am I caught up? Oh, wow. You're actually from... I don't know what Buddy Boy means, but I didn't know that you're actually from the valleys. Oh, well, there you go. That would explain why you know your rugby. Anyway... believe me, in New Zealand, we still... Obviously, Wales isn't quite what it used to be in terms of rugby, but everybody in New Zealand knows about the game where Clinically beat the All Blacks. Was it in the 1960s now? But still, we still hurt from that. And we still respect Wales and Welsh rugby for that team and that era, which no doubt is what the King was from. So, well, there you go. Something in common. If you haven't said hello, do say hello. Okay, like Buddy, I guess. I'm not your buddy, pal. Sorry, South Park Canadian references jump in. Oh, someone's having mint tea. Who's having mint tea? Lara's having mint tea. That sounds delightful. Anyway, where we're going, we don't have time or ability to drink mint tea because I'm talking. So a lot happening in the world today. Without going too much, I mean, I beg, every week I beg the news, please don't make me talk about America. Let me just focus on Japan. Let this be a place where people can catch up on things. Japan's got enough problems to talk about. But, America, when America does things, it tends to impact everyone, including Japan. And I'll focus on that angle of things. But, yeah, anyway, let's do that. Let's dive in. So thanks to everybody who supports the MASH battle every week. I do appreciate that. Yeah, and we'll be doing the after party definitely after this. Oh, yeah, I'll be going to Singapore, by the way, the week, next week is going to be 2.5 Voyages. And then the day after that, I'm going to Singapore just from Monday to Friday. It'll probably be full up for work, but if you're around, let me know, say hi. But yeah, I won't miss a show as a result of this, because it'll just be during the week, but looking forward to that. So yeah, I guess this is the last topic that I added. So this is less Japan related, but still it has been kind of interesting. As someone who uses a lot of AI and works with AI in and out and loves Anthropic, it's been really fascinating watching the treatment of the designation of Anthropic as a supply chain risk. I should really be talking about this last, but it is first in my feed. It is the last thing that I posted about. So I'll just say it quickly. One, Claude Opus is the best LLM. Not that I would use it for autonomously, killing people with drones per se, but it is an excellent, excellent LLM. Also, one thing that I notice here is how there was a case a couple of years ago where Google had an employee had a contract with the Department of Defense, I think under Biden, and employees internally said, no, we don't want Google using AI for war. And due to the internal employee rebellion, Google broke its contract with the government and said, no, we're going to terminate the contract. We're not going to supply this anymore. I mean, could you imagine if they did that with the current government? So they due to a San Francisco-based employee rebellion, Google broke off its own contract with Department of Defense. What happened with Anthropic is totally different, but I know people who work there, who work in legal there, and the fact that, after the Venezuela raid, somebody at Anthropic thought that they would call up Palantir and say, hey, you guys, you totally weren't using this for autonomously killing people with robots or anything, were you? It's cool, right? You weren't doing anything, and their contract does allow the Department of Defense to use it for war and for fighting and whatever. They only have a couple of restrictions, and it was all sort of agreed, and there's nothing outside of the scope. There's no breach of contract, but somebody went and called up Palantir to ask, hey, what was it used for during that raid? And that itself, maybe that person's regretting asking that question now, but then someone at Palantir, rather than just answer them, said, you know what, why don't we just ask the Department of Defense this? And this blew up Palantir as well, because, it's this contract, they're dependent on Anthropic. So the fact that as a result, basically, it looks like the U.S. government took the opportunity to sort of kill a monkey, is the expression. You kill, there's an old expression from somewhere that you kill a monkey to scare all the monkeys away. And it looks like they've decided to completely go nuclear on Anthropic, which to me is amazing. They are the best AI lab in the world, and they're American, and they're pro-U.S. military. And they've gone and declared them, not only just cut the contract with them, but they've declared them a supply chain risk, which classifies them like Huawei. It means they're treating them like they're presuming they have embedded listening equipment and are working for the Chinese or something. That's the level of designation of this. This just happened yesterday. So totally crazy. But that said, I mean, they weren't trying to dictate anything about how it was used. It was just one person asked one question to one person in Palantir who forwarded the question. I presume both the people who asked these questions were probably fired. But yeah, it created the opportunity to make a statement, which they made. And I thought that would be the biggest thing that America did this week. But here we are. We'll get to Iran. We'll talk about Iran. It's a big topic, of course. Yes, in the meantime, if you're in Japan right now, and you get hay fever or allergies, we are in the time period right now where the Japanese cedar pollen is going crazy. Apparently 400% normal volumes in most of West Japan. About 90% normal volume, still miserable in Tokyo. I know people who can't go outside. The pollen gets covered all over your clothes and stuff. You see, it's not quite at the pandemic level of people wearing masks, but it's pretty high because a pretty high proportion of people have these. The irony about the Japanese cedars, and this basically, some economic losses from this are estimated at 1.6 billion per year. I know people that go and live in Okinawa. I know people that go back to Australia. For the 2 or 3 months that this happens, it restricts the ability to go outside and to do things. I know people that basically take a lot of time off because they can't function and they can't work because they're so allergic to this. And you'd say, well, Japan has tons of mountains full of Japanese cedar, and these mountains are very, very rugged. So it's kind of hard to do anything about it. But the thing is, those mountains being full of Japanese cedar isn't just wild forest. The Japanese government deliberately, after World War II, to prevent landslides and to secure the slope and this really rugged terrain in a country that has lots of typhoons and monsoons and lots of rain and stuff, and landslides were always happening and killing people, they decided to solve the problem by covering the mountains in these, they're a native tree, but covering them in these trees that produces clouds, visible clouds of pollen, that then cover the country and paralyze everybody with illness. To which my comment here, for a country that can just through force of willpower and basically hazing and bullying and social pressure can make watermelons turn cube-shaped, I am shocked and surprised that Japan cannot produce like cedar trees that don't like carpet the country in pollen. But here we are. And yeah, it's a real thing at the moment. It kind of looks like coronavirus right now because and people who suffer from this, they literally wear goggles and face masks. You know, I'm glad I don't suffer from it this time of year. But people who know that it's coming, they start getting injections. They start taking antihistamines like a month before they know it hits. And right now we're in peak, and it's going to go probably until about Golden Week and the rainy season in Japan. But yeah, if you're still a great time to be in Japan. The weather's all over the place, actually, but it's actually getting nice and warm and everything, and we have cherry blossom soon. But if you're allergic, stay away, definitely. So there we go. Bloke Tengu. That makes more sense now. Softy Papa is suffering and miserable from hay fever. Oh, if he gets it, especially where he's living, like he's living in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nature down in Shizuoka, I think. So that would make sense. Yeah, P. Morton, welcome. Morals and tech, crazy talk. Well, you know, you'd be surprised, but of course, you know, there are places where it exists and places where it doesn't, just like car companies, frankly. It doesn't, the fact that, you know, it was an internal quasi-ethics-based campaign that led to Google pulling out of its contracts with the US Department of Defense, or war, or whatever they're calling it now. It was an interesting thing. You know, but the fact that they wanted to make a political statement that they didn't want. I mean, can you imagine if Google had done this now? And yeah, and the fact that OpenAI jumped in immediately and said, okay, we'll do it. We don't mind killing people and mass surveilling people, which is illegal anyway, technically in America, although crazy times. Anyway, so that was an interesting story. The pollen is crazy in Japan. Oh, by the way, for the shorts, StreamYard now has this thing where actually it will automatically extract parts of this that it thinks might be interesting for shorts. So all I have to say is eat my shorts, and it will actually extract it later. So I should be a little bit mindful about anything that if something comes up that I think is good, I'll probably stop and say clip that, or at least I'll try to speak in a structured way and not the meandering, rambly, crazy person way that I normally speak, so that we can get these wonderful, totally cool with US government killing whoever it likes shorts they edited or at least proposed by AI. So there we go, we're all friends here. Yeah, Believe in Yourself has been like, I've actually found it's really good at picking out like good clips, and I had them last week, you know, and I haven't posted them, but yeah, when there are good moments in the show, it's like I go back and it's like, oh yeah, there was that is pretty cool. So it's a lot of fun. I will not have a cow, Albo Rosario, but thank you for reminding me to not have a cow. Believe me, it's very hard to feed them in central Tokyo. Crap everywhere. It's a big challenge. Moving on. Oh, this is a big one. Oh, there's multiple. No, this is not the one that I thought it is. But okay, here's one. So, given that in the last couple of elections there have been, and particularly the very last election, supporters of Sanseito and Sanseito itself have been exploiting anxiety about increasing foreigners in Japan. And what I find interesting about this is not just the general xenophobia, the fear of seeing more foreign people around everywhere you go, particularly in places that have not had many foreigners in the past, but there's a dual layer to this where there's definitely increasing global attention on Japan, and a lot of people in countries that feel like they have had too much immigration and like Japan for being this country which has kind of retained its homogeneity comparatively. You know, there's so many, you know, the guy who carried out the big massacre in Norway and so on wrote, you know, manifestos praising Japan, not realizing that there are like 3 million of us, dude. You know, Japan is dramatically increasing immigration. And it's been fine, but a lot of people say, oh no, you don't want to let more immigrants into Japan because it'll ruin it just like it's ruined here. So how are things going exactly? A lot of people online saying they're worried because more foreigners will inherently mean less public safety. It will mean less security, and Japan is becoming more dangerous because there are more foreigners. And it plays into the psychological thing that at least when you feel like you know all of your neighbors, you feel like it's safe. And when there's more strangers, and particularly people who you don't think will adhere to the social norms, which Japan is all about the social norms, when you see people that you think won't follow the cultural rules and so on, it increases this fear and anxiety that foreigners equals more crime, people willing to commit crime. Why wouldn't you commit crime if you had no social accountability? Is the mentality, not just here, but everywhere. And so a lot of people are saying, look, with all these foreigners now, there's so much more crime and society is more dangerous. As part of the narrative that's been propelling groups, parties like Sanseto to get, 14 seats in the parliament in the last election. And it's not, obviously, this is something that happens in every country, but it's relatively new in Japan to have a specific anxiety and xenophobia as a narrative. Now, whether they did this on their own spontaneously or the government nudged them to say, hey guys, please put this out there, but through whatever means, whether this was political or spontaneous, all these people basically quoting the idea that Japan has increasing crime because of the increasing foreigners, which is just taken for granted by the internet everywhere in Japan. And it's playing into this thing that the government has to do more, something to curb the number of foreigners. The National Police Agency spontaneously put out that they published statistics showing that actually the number of foreigners detained in Japan by the police for any reason, and this is detained, not in prison, so we're not talking about prosecutions or anything like that. This is just the number of people detained by the police has gone down 40% from 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, there was no tourism. So now we have 40 million visitors and 3 million residents. 20 years ago, there was less than 1 million residents and no tourists. And yet, in spite of that, the number of foreigners being detained is 40% less now than it was 20 years ago. And so the National Police Agency says, look, these are the stats. So the idea that this increase in foreigners is leading to a measurable decrease in public safety is patently false and statistically provably false. I don't know of any examples where police have published statistics to rebut the idea that foreigners, to actually stand up for foreign residents of Japan. So kudos to the NPA for addressing this. Certainly it's something that I think the government is getting pissed off that they're being told to do something about this against the assumption that crime is increasing when it's not, and for this narrative to take over the internet. So actually, bravo, National Police Agency, for doing that. And nice to be in a country where, well, I guess you can't always say the police here are obviously not perfect, but there's plenty of bad associations with the police here. But nice to see them doing the right thing here. Ben Duncan pointing out, however, but you know what? Umbrella theft and bicycle theft, it's not us. Where I come from, stealing an umbrella is the same as stealing a car, and the penalties should be the same, which is death. But in Japan, Japanese people steal umbrellas and basketballs. Why did I say basketballs? Bicycles. God, I'm getting tired. They're stealing bicycles and umbrellas all the time. Maybe bicycles less nowadays. This is where they brought in the national registration system, where now they register bicycles like cars, and it's actually harder to do. But umbrellas, yeah, they still get stolen all the time. And I don't know. To me, that's definitely a Japan on Japanese, and even Japanese on foreigner crime type of a thing. Hey, Edu, nice to have you in here, and yes, indeed. So anyway, nice to see that the NPA took the trouble to go out and point out, actually, all you racist, xenophobic people saying that foreigners means crime, actually, the increase in foreigners appears to have reduced the number of foreigners we need to be detaining. Even I'm honestly kind of surprised by that. I would have just assumed misbehaving tourists, but that's it. I had this idea that if you have more tourists coming in, it's like multiplying the number of drunk English teachers getting into fights in Roppongi and US military getting into fights in Roppongi, which is what it all was back in the day, including, of course, Chinese and Korean gangsters and so on. That's what it was 20 years ago. But the fact is, the tourists that have come are so much better behaved than the people who were living here and being total dicks 20 years ago. All the English teachers who are basically just going out and getting drunk and making a nuisance of themselves. That's not what the tourists are like. The tourists have I have to admit it, they've kind of raised the classiness. Everyone comes here and it's like, oh, this place is so nice. I have to be nice. Even hooligans like behave better here. And we've had all of these examples where when foreigners have behaved badly, that it's been so publicly shamed, the Logan Paul type stuff, right? So I don't know. It's really weird, actually. Even to me, the fact that it's going on 40%, I was like, whoa, really? But it's literally the police agency is quoting them. So Johnny Somali leaves the chat. But the point is, he's such an outlier. Is partly, I mean, and he's found out that the Koreans mess around even less with this kind of thing. But in a way, the fact that those examples stand out and the whole universe condemns him so roundly for it, I think kind of contributes to the overall better behavior. Sometimes it's literally the killing the monkey thing. Sometimes you need to make an example out of some people. You kill the monkey to keep the other monkeys away is the proverb that I know a guy in ethics and compliance who uses that phrase, definitely not in a racial sense, but it comes from some proverb that when you have problems with that you make an example. And certainly I think having a few prominent examples like Logan Paul, Johnny Somali, people making trouble and getting their asses kicked over it probably makes people behave a bit better, but we'll see. Wow, people almost got hit on your bicycle in Japan today. The use of rear vision mirrors here is hit or miss. Certainly, I also really dislike people parking in the bicycle lanes as well, forcing you to veer into traffic. It's it can be dodgy. Anyway, let's move into the big news. Iran, and this is the last. This is in reverse chronological order, but let's talk about Iran. America and Israel attacked Iran. Can't really tell if anyone else did. Certainly, probably if October 7 hadn't happened, if the attack on Israel hadn't happened from Gaza on October 7, probably it sounds like Israel was like this close to getting diplomatic relations with Saudi Arabia. And who knows? This attack might have happened earlier, and it might have happened, could you believe it, with Saudi Arabia also involved. In the event, what happened instead was, while Arab countries appear to have stayed out of the attack, at least participating in it, they've certainly borne the brunt of retaliation, at least where they have U.S. bases there. There again, those U.S. bases there, they're there 50% for protecting the oil of, not even 50%, frankly, but they're there because Kuwait was invaded and Saudi Arabia was attacked. And they're there at least partly for the defense of the region, but also because, America wants all that oil to come out. Interesting thing, how does this affect, how is Japan looking at the Iran situation? It's kind of funny. Japan press is generally negative about it. In fact, I've seen editorials from academics saying, well, America, basically Japan gets 90% of its energy. Japan has no oil. It has no domestic, energy sources other than nuclear and renewable sources. It imports everything, and 90% of what it imports goes through the Strait of Hormuz. That's closed right now. And you might think, well, they're buying it from Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and UAE and Qatar, right? But no, they actually buy a ton of it from Iran. Japan has great relations with Iran and has always been able to negotiate an exception to sanctions against Iran from the United States, just because it desperately, it doesn't have any other source of oil. So the attack on Iran actually is, and the resulting blockage of the Strait of Hormuz, this means that Japan is going to have, Japan has reserves, so certainly it doesn't want the war in the Strait of Hormuz to be blocked for too long. But Japan's whole policy is to keep great relations with Arab countries and Persia, Iran. I shouldn't call it Persia, I guess. But certainly, and this is why it doesn't really have anything in the way of relations with Israel, and it doesn't really, while of course it is really important for Japan's security to have good relations with the United States, it kind of takes a neutral stance whenever United States does crazy shit in the Middle East. So basically, I've seen columns by academics saying that, well, America should be ready to, pay Japan compensation for the economic damage that this is going to cause it. You think America's going to do that? I don't think America's going to do that. America's going to say, why don't you just buy our oil at double the price? But yeah, so everyone here is Japan, like a lot of other countries. But there again, Japan is also, while it is kind of hard to be for something which is so, tough on Japan, at the same time, nobody's really standing up to defend Iran either. I mean, you've got a regime that's basically, been handing out advisors and missiles to anybody who wants to fire missiles at ships in the Red Sea, or who wants to, fire. They've been constantly through proxy attacking other countries. For decades. They've been supporting, insurgencies in Iraq. Attacks on Israel, the civil war in, supported the government in Syria, supporting the civil war in Lebanon. And they've been directly participating in all of this. So no one's really jumping up to defend them. And the fact that, and even hearing the Iranians say in the UN Security Council that, the civilian deaths are a war crime. I'm like, which are a terrible thing. And, honestly, any sort of military action resulting in loss of life of innocent people is terrible. But, this is from a government that a couple of weeks ago slaughtered 10,000, unarmed civilian protesters, protesting over economic policies of the government. And now they're claiming that killing... So, yeah. Basically, it was pretty shocking and kind of amazing. I mean, I must say, I'm not really a great fan, of course, of the current administration in America. But, man, the U.S. military is, when they decide to do something, any thoughts that they might be rusty or not, not as good at what they do as you think they are or whatever. Damn, the first day. They just immediately, they've done 2 decapitation attacks now. And, I actually hope that Vladimir Putin is like extra paranoid and nervous now. Like the fact that they could demonstrate that they could do this against someone who knew that they were coming. I don't know what's going to happen from it, but certainly Japan at the moment is, nobody's saying. Oh, and another thing that was really interesting. Oil prices have already gone up $10 per barrel, and they're probably going to go up a lot more, which I don't like that that's going to benefit Russia. But at the same time, I can't really condemn any taking down of this regime and what they've been doing. It's just remarkable to see how it's gone anyway. I do hope it ends soon. I do hope it can result in positive change, but honestly, positive change just through violence, that, we all hope that Iraq would become a model of democracy in the Middle East, and that's not quite how it worked out, and who knows what will happen with this. And the war is still ongoing at the moment. I hope it's over soon, and I hope a good ending happens for the Iranian people. I think what the government did there, it looked probably even worse than what Syria did. But that said, I don't think that America is doing, or Israel is doing what it's doing out of altruism. They're doing Saudi Arabia a huge favor, but we'll see. I hope things settle soon. I hope there's not, I hope there's a minimum civilian casualties. But certainly from a Japan perspective, this is going to have a huge impact on costs and inflation here in Japan. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, interesting to see here. People here are like, basically nobody likes it in Japan. People are actually generally kind of pro Iran, frankly. But at the same time, nobody feels strongly supportive of the regime there enough to actually speak up. Oh yeah, there was another interesting thing I heard. Apparently, like less than a week ago, or like a week or two ago, there were joint exercises where Iran, China, and Russia did exercises in the Strait of Hormuz, like of military cooperation. So, and apparently Iran had purchased a whole bunch of equipment from China just recently, which hasn't been delivered yet, which may have influenced the timing of all of this. But again, it kind of shows who's just posturing and can't really back it up. And again, you think in Ukraine of all the Shahid drones all the Iranian drones that are being used by Russia to kill people in and to aid the invasion of Ukraine. Yeah, I kind of feel like the regime there has it coming, but I really hope, I really like Iranian people, and I think it's a great country. I hope that the country can kind of open up at some point. I don't know if this is the right way to go about having that good outcome for the Iranian people, but it's amazing. And again, it shows that there's very, very capable people in America, and you shouldn't doubt, if people have forgotten how capable its military is. That's 2 decapitation attacks in the last couple of weeks. It's kind of amazing anyway. But there we go. Curious actually got Project X0140. Nice to have you in here. Yeah, lots of different opinions indeed. It's kind of, in principle, you shouldn't really be invading or attacking anyone, but at the same time, it's also very, very hard to feel anything other than, good riddance, you deserved it. Just like, frankly, I mean, very hard to see is very different to to Assad, for example, in Syria, other than the fact that this guy's also the head of a religion, of a global religion, which makes it extra complicated. But there we go. Oh, wow. P. Morton worked in the building that they hit in Bahrain back in the day. You're talking about the hotel? Or I assume not the Naval Command building. But yeah. People talking a bit about Turkey. Turkey is another country with a lot of complicated interests in this part of the world. But there we go. And yeah, it didn't work in Afghanistan. Didn't work in Iraq. But, we'll see. We'll see. Dan H., I don't think this is the end, considering Naftali Bennett, the former Prime Minister of Israel, just mentioned Turkey as the new Iran. I don't think, well, yeah, that will... Naftali Bennett, was he a Prime Minister of Israel? Anyway, I know that there are some there are some far-right crazy people in a lot of governments right now. Turkey and Israel actually have traditionally had the best relations of any two countries in the whole Middle East. And, and Israel, remember, supported the Kurds, directly, kind of as they do unofficially. Israel used to have great relations with Iran and great relations with Turkey. It's complicated explaining how those fell apart, but it's, certainly Erdogan has decided, in part, and Israel's obviously done things, and Israel's going the other direction as well. But I don't think it's good for anyone for that kind of framing. I haven't heard that, but that is disappointing if that's what they're saying. Although we have a Turkish person, Sadiq, saying that Turkey is the next year. I hope not. God, I hope not. But they are, well, this is it. The thing that made Turkey, I believe, well, God, no. Now I'm going way off topic here. Japan has great relations with Turkey. First I say that. And great relations with Iran. But I think the secret source of what made Turkey different to the rest of the Middle East and so successful was the secularism. And the fact that that's being tossed out the window, I think, is a part of the problems it's having. But we'll see. Hey, Jen Motts, great to see you. Anyway, let's keep moving. Let's get back to Japan, because one thing, while I am confident I can solve many problems, the Middle East is definitely not one of those. Everyone in Japan is worried and hoping that it ends soon, and amen to that. Fun watching the marathon. As someone now who's done it and has a special appreciation of it, as I said, running at 1.5 times speed. Seeing the Ethiopian guy who won, it's been really interesting watching as I get to know running YouTubers. And if you're interested in watching a YouTube channel about running in Japan, I've mentioned it before, Ran to Japan. Oh, Jake Barraclough. He was actually injured, so he just ran 30 kilometers and stopped. He was just doing it as a practice run today. But he did a big streams where he sort of talked about he chose to come to Japan and not Kenya because there's so much doping scandals coming out of Ethiopia and Kenya that he doesn't consider any of the runners from there credible, which is interesting from somebody who's quite competitive or trying to get at least below 210 at the moment. But 203, I mean, it is crazy watching how strong they were and watching the race. There was a Japanese guy who up until the 30-kilometer mark was like a minute ahead of the top runners. But I must admit, it's something it's a rabbit hole that ever since I finished the marathon and I stopped running, as I still run all the time, but I don't run like marathon training, but I've actually started to, now that I appreciate it, I enjoy following it more. And it was really fun watching it today, and huge congratulations to Takeda, who I think is also the guy who won the Tokyo Olympic gold medal as well, so that was super great. And thank you for sharing that, Aaron. Yeah, Ran to Japan. It's a great channel, very entertaining. He's a very entertaining guy. Very fast runner, and yeah, it's actually a channel worth following just for that aspect of life in Japan from the perspective of a pretty elite runner. Anyway, Japan definitely worried, and this is something that definitely, even if this war with Iran ends today, it's going to have a really big impact on Japan economically. I suppose on the other hand, hopefully this will help make China think twice about whether it's a good idea to do anything with Taiwan, with America showing off its capabilities at the moment. Certainly on the other hand, if America gets sucked into a quagmire with Iran, the fact that they're not committing land forces or anything like that, perhaps that's a positive. But yeah, if America got sucked into an Iraq-type war over there, China would probably take that as an extra opportunity to attack Taiwan, which could set this whole region on fire. But there again, if America can get in and out and make, and have a real impact quickly, I think it would actually be really good for security in this part of the world. It might make China think twice about doing something absolutely stupid and unnecessary. So that's the good side from it. But right now, yeah, Japan is kind of doing what it does, where it very proactively. It's like if you watch The Crown on Netflix, where every episode is about how, through much passion and deep thought, they conclude that the best thing to do is to do and say nothing every single time. That's basically it's a spoiler for every episode of The Crown and what the monarchy does in every situation in the UK. It's kind of how Japan handles international affairs. They wring their hands, they stop, they think, they do papers, and the conclusion is, I'm not touching that, But they don't not touch it lightly, but they do not touch it every single time. Interesting article here, real wages here lagging behind inflation, and real wages against like the price of stuff. Even though it's bumping up and you keep hearing things, basically wages in Japan are going down. And again, you talk about the Iran invasion. If that increases the cost of anything involving petroleum, which is anything using electricity, anything using fertilizer, anything, it's everything in Japan, basically. Wages are not going to go up to compensate for that. That is an inbound cost. So that is going to cause real wages to go down even more and make everybody in Japan even poorer, with prices going up, which is going to be a challenge for the Japanese government, which is already struggling with this challenge. This is also very depressing to see, because when I consider that red line, when I came to Japan, when I made the decision to come to Japan, it was still a pretty good idea. And all my friends who went to UK, I was like, you guys are going all the way around the world to go to a country that's culturally basically the same. I'm going to go somewhere different where there's less competition from people like you, and I'm going to be rich and successful. And here we are. Oh, Italy is keeping us friends. Oh, there we go. Italy is also doing crap. Well, in fact, they're even doing worse than Japan. I shouldn't laugh, but I didn't even realize that, wow, what happened to Italy? I guess I want to know, but everyone else is doing quite well. But Jane makes an important point. The UK does suck. I mean, you're making lots of money, but do I want to live there? Not particularly. And honestly, I went to the US and I know that I'd be earning 2-3 times as much money there. But I still think on the wages that I have here, even though it's a lot less than I would get in America, I have a great quality of life here. But there you go. So poor but happy, which Lara doesn't seem to be convinced. Well, I don't know. I mean, Italians all seem pretty happy when I went there. Very friendly people. So maybe what this means, seeing America and Britain at the top and Japan and Italy down the bottom, maybe the lesson here is that money just does not buy happiness. We're all just better off having out of control inflation and no wages, and you'll just be happier and your country will be better. That's the conclusion I'm taking. You'll have better food anyway. I mean, you look at this. If this is like, you could flip this graph upside down for the taste of food, and that is certainly something. So there we go. Germany is thinking about raising taxes from 19% to 21%. Is that a sales tax? Well, Germany's had problems. I mean, and if Germany was going to be that tough on Greece, they probably have to make sure that they can collect enough taxes. So there we go. Anyway, real wages are going terribly. Another thing, Tokyo continues to attract population. Internal migration to Tokyo, in spite of basically everywhere in the country, the population is negative except Tokyo. And this is not just Tokyo attracting foreigners, but also everybody in other places of Japan, parts of Japan, are coming to Tokyo still. And this is just it. The countryside is emptying out. This is considered a national policy problem in Japan. They're paying people money to not come to Tokyo and stay in their hometowns. Just like they're paying people to have babies. But it's kind of funny. A cash bribe is not normally enough to make you accept living in a dead town with nothing to do when you can go to Tokyo and have a better quality of life. Like, the bribe would have to be pretty big, or for that sake, make the 18-year commitment that is to having a child when you're not ready or able to have one. And this is where, like fertility, persuading people to not leave declining towns. Those towns have to do more than just hand out cash, which is all that the government seems to know how to do to combat this. They're looking at it as a problem that Tokyo is so damn attractive to everybody else. Well, Tokyo just can't help but be good looking. It's a curse. I know exactly how it feels. What you have to do is figure out how to up your own game. Take people out to dinner, dress up a bit better. Make yourselves more attractive. Not just pay money. In the end of the day, it's just not as fulfilling, and you won't have as much money. So yeah, be like Tokyo. I think there's a moral for life somewhere in that. Take care of yourself, and you attract people. And the idea that we're considering it a problem, that Tokyo is just a great place to live, but that's the result. Still lots of people. Nippon.com here talking about how Japan doesn't still have a cohesive immigration policy. In fact, in Parliament, when some parties are saying Japan has allowed lots of immigration with people coming in on working visas, Japan says, haha, I've got you. Working visas are not immigration. We don't count it. They're just temporary people working here basically forever. And that is kind of, so if you just take immigrants as being people applying for permanent residency, you can see that the rejection rates have gone up. I mean, look at this. Back in 2006, so I got permanent residence in about 2008. I think it was around then. So at that time, in fact, it was exactly 10 years in here. So yeah, 2008, 2009. So you can see that the rejections at that time were like 10%. Whereas, like, in this period, now it's gone to be like 50% of applications. At a time, it was almost 1-to-1. So the number of approved permanent residency applications is like way down to 55,000, and they're increasing the fees for it as well. But this is the only thing that they recognize as actual immigration. Naturalization applications, this is applications for Japanese citizenship as well. They never used to reject anyone. Now they're rejecting people even who are willing to renounce their own citizenship and become Japanese. And these application approval rates are also starting to go down. But yeah, they're basically, Japan has specific shortages in all sorts of parts of the economy that they are filling with, basically on a reactive basis by having people come in and work in farms and work in factories and work in convenience stores and work in hospitals. Where they have staffing shortages, but there's no policy for basically filling these positions and making sure that they're integrating and working well in Japanese society. Things like having lessons on Japanese language and facilities to help people integrate. In fact, if anything, there's kind of the opposite happening. Some prefectures even banning foreigners from working for, there's a prefecture that's banning foreigners from getting jobs in city council offices, when those people are there to help foreigners who are moving into the prefecture to fill these jobs, integrate into the society. So, the absence of a policy is definitely a problem there. Another thing that's happening, by the way, the fees for visas are going up. But I kind of thought, well, the visa fees are not a big deal anyway, for the most part. And most of them have gone from like 2,000 to 6,000 or whatever. And I don't think that makes so much of a difference if you're applying for a job, whatever, to pay a few extra administrative fees. And that's kind of normal. But I was surprised to learn that the permanent residency application, which is a huge pain in the ass, that is going from 10,000 yen, from about $60, to 200,000 yen, which, when you consider that the average monthly wage in Japan, at least post-tax at the moment, like in the hand, for my first few years in Japan, I was in a good paying job and I was getting 160,000 yen per month. And that is still currently like the wage of someone working at an IT consultancy. So you're talking, for anyone who's working on a farm or in a factory, who's worked here for like 10 or 15 years and wants to get permanent residency, you're talking probably, 1.5 to 2 months wages just for the application form, on an application form that now has a 50% rejection rate. And so clearly the goal of, well, this is more than just, I don't think that processing the fees now costs 20 times more than it did before. It appears that the increase in the fee is punitive. And it's this idea that, again, it appears that the Japanese government has this idea that, people who can pay 2 months' wages as an administrative fee for a visa are likely to be higher quality immigrants. But the fact is, Japan doesn't need Saudi princes as permanent residents. It needs nurses. It needs people to make cars. It needs people to look after elderly people. It needs people to help farms stay operational. And those people can't afford this, and yet those are the people that the society needs. So, it looks like it's almost trying to discourage the people that Japan needs the most from actually integrating into the society, which is reflective of the article over here, that Japan doesn't have a cohesive policy or approach to what it's going to do with its population problem, which is Japanese are not going to solve on their own. And we've seen, with all the extra foreigners, crime is down 40%, even with the number of resident foreigners up 300%, and the number of tourists up like a bazillion percent. So it's been interesting. And final one that I really wanted to cover tonight, and I'll come back to the comments right after this, but this is kind of crazy. So Ibaraki, fighting often with Tochi for Japan's least attractive prefecture, they've decided it would be a good idea to introduce a 10,000 yen bounty for successfully reporting any foreigner who turns out to be undocumented. I can't see what could possibly go wrong with this. So yeah, basically with this idea that there are all of these illegal foreigners there, and again, you talk about Ibaraki, full of farms and little factories, full of Brazilian people, Chinese people, Vietnamese people. This is basically like, if there is no penalty for misreporting this, and how can anyone know the immigration status of their next door neighbor, right? Or someone who just moves into their building, or someone that they see or whatever. So how can you ever know that without actually checking? Only the Ministry of Justice can ever know the visa status of a foreigner there. But if you report someone who just moved into your building and it turns out that they were undocumented, and you can get a fine, you get a free 10,000 yen. And if you don't, there's no punishment. Doesn't this just mean that every foreigner there is going to be constantly questioned and asked by anyone aware of this bounty system and challenged as to whether they're illegal or not? And Japan isn't like America, where illegals can walk across the border, in and out of the country. You can't swim to Japan. Japan has really pretty well-controlled borders. Now, there are people who come and overstay, and there are also all sorts of situations with abusive employers that people run away from and all sorts of stuff like that. But basically, to me, yeah, unless you institute a fine for misreporting people, that seems to me to be kind of shitty. And again, contrary to the idea that Japan needs these foreign workers, and you're sending kind of mixed signals when you're having punitive application fees for permanent residents, when you're removing the people whose job it is in the city council office to integrate these people into the society, and you're rewarding people who just report on the off chance, who report people as illegals on the off chance that they might get a bonus for it. Could you imagine in America if they started handing out $100 to anyone who reports an undocumented foreigner to ICE? Could you imagine? And in fact, where there probably are a lot of people like that in America, yeah, you'd probably have to pay out a lot of money as well. But it'd be kind of anarchy. So that is some kind of crazy stuff happening in the world here at the moment. Not something that I think necessarily comes directly onto me, but it paints a picture, and I don't think it should make you anxious about coming and joining Japanese society, but it says to me that right now the government's kind of knee-jerk reacting to xenophobia, which, as the MPA itself points out, is kind of fake news. But people are treating it as fact, and they're knee-jerk reacting by increasing visa fees and handing out, illegal foreigner bounties and all this sort of stuff, which isn't really the right way to set up a successful future for Japan, which has bigger problems right now, including the Iran invasion and so on. So that's kind of what's happening here. Yeah. Also, I don't understand why the Japanese Ministry of Defense announced that they will put defensive missiles on Yonaguni in 4 years' time. I don't know how that, to me, that just gives an incentive to China to move sooner. But But there we go. Also, this was interesting. Apparently, Gunma, which is right beside Tochigi and Ibaraki, the two least attractive prefectures in Japan, apparently, somehow Gunma was ranked the most preferred relocation destination for the second. I mean, how is that even possible? Tokyo is the most preferred relocation location, I guess, from Tokyo, but I don't really understand how Gunma would ever come up on this list. To me, that would be said no one ever, but there we go. But yeah, it's been a busy week, and I have just finished all the topics, and we have 5 minutes left. So, you know what? 10,000 doesn't seem worth it, but you know what? If you have nothing to lose, and there's a new foreigner, there's a new Vietnamese people living downstairs, and maybe they're making too much noise, and you call up, what's to lose? If you report them and it turns out that you're right, you get free money, and even if you don't, well, we're all safer because we all know now. Which, I mean, how is this gonna? I'm sure there's no way it cannot encourage harassment, and people feeling othered, which is a bit terrible. Is Gunma a retirement location? Well, you know what? It is famous. It does have some hot springs that are famous. It's got Oizumi, which is an all-Brazilian town that I went to, which is awesome if you like Brazilian food. It has many, many factories, and I suppose it probably has some skiing. But I think Gunma is landlocked, isn't it? It doesn't have a beach. No, it's the sort of place. I always wonder why more Japanese don't retire in Okinawa. And the reason that they don't is that they're so attached to the family plot of land in the middle of whatever, buried in snow in the mountains or whatever. Gunma's the type of place where I wonder why the hell people are there and they don't just move to nicer places. People don't really move to nice locations. And when I used to work in consulting, and people would move cities in Japan, the cities that people would move to or not come back to Tokyo from were consistently Sapporo, Sendai, Fukuoka, and Hokuriku. Those locations, beautiful cities that people relocate to. I don't know what happened to Gunma, that it became a... Gunma is not attractive. I don't hate Gunma, but Oizumi was a fantastic memory of going there, and you know what? I think I've been skiing in Gunma as well, and that's pretty good. But not so much that I would want to live there. But there you go. Certainly, I think you're right. It's an easy, quiet place for a pensioner to live if they find Singapore too busy. I think that would certainly be right. Is Japan going down the road of Orwell's 1984? It is not, but there again, I think what you're seeing in Japan right now are small parts of what is happening, I think, to a much greater extent in a lot of other developed countries right now. It is disappointing to me. I've always said, and I've always said this here on the show, that, it's always nice to be in a place where Japan has kind of been immune from a little bit of the immigration. I've always said, God, I hope I hope Senpai doesn't notice us, that immigration doesn't get politicized. And Japan is just getting its first taste of politicized immigration. The good news is that there isn't actually any meaningful statistical data to actually validate the xenophobia that's being expressed. So I still think the case for foreigners in Japan is still pretty good. And I'm not worried as a result of it. I think Japanese are pretty good at following the data. But it's worrying that in spite of my, that it is starting. And we'll see how it deals with it. But there we go. Dan H., how are your plans? You're planning to move to Japan, right? I know I skipped. But your parents were looking to move to UAE, but are looking at Malaysia. Malaysia, certainly the dollars would go a lot further. Actually, my dad moved to Phuket because him and my stepmother, his wife, did a analysis from a quality of life, cost of living, access to high-quality medical care perspective. And on their calculation, about 15 years ago at least, Thailand came out pretty much at the top. When there were serious medical issues, they did travel to Singapore for that once or twice. But again, Malaysia, you could do that as well. I like Malaysia. Malaysia's good, but, pros and cons. But yeah. Japan or Korea? Are you considering Korea? Korea has also gotten so much nicer. I'm not sure I could live there, but I certainly enjoy visiting there. And, every time I go, it's gone from being a place where you go, but you're sort of glad to get out, to a place where, it's actually really nice. So, the world is definitely changing like that. But anyway, 46 years old, no hope of moving abroad is null and void. Yeah, well, there we go. So we have people same age, Jen and Lara, and coming to Japan. You have to, certainly the world is not as set up to be like that. Also, it is just amazing to me that UK kind of did that to itself with Brexit, that they took away the options for going and living there easily. But yeah, you can certainly do things. So there are always options anyway, if you're able to and you want to get out. But Wakai indeed. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to wrap it up there. We're actually past 11 o'clock. I was just looking at the clock over here saying 59:48. I'm going to wrap it up. We're going to go and do the after party on Tokyo Digital Cruise. So come and join me if you want some music. And hope you all have a great week. I will be back next week for 2.5 Voyages, probably over on Victor's channel. It will be a lot of fun as always. Have a good week, everybody. Hoping for peace in the Middle East and a resumption of some sort of normalcy. But have a great week, everybody. Take care of yourselves and see you next week. Boom. Peace.